All right, so we're back and ready to dive into a case that's been going on for over a decade in the New Jersey courts. You guys sent in a ton of documents, and wow, this one's a doozy.
Yeah, it's got it all.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking allegations of fraud and sealed records, possible constitutional violations. I mean,
It's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot.
It's like a legal thriller or something.
It really is. And it's interesting because it really puts a human face on a system that can seem so abstract. We're talking about Lily Coley and her son, Rymir Satterthwaite, and sadly Wanda Satterthwaite, who passed away while all this was going on. And they're going up against some pretty big institutions here, right? The New Jersey Supreme Court, different judges, court divisions, even the administrative office of the courts.
Wow, they're not messing around.
No, they're not.
It sounds like they're alleging like a pattern of misconduct. Like this isn't just like a one-off kind of thing.
No, absolutely. And keep in mind, they're representing themselves too, which adds a whole other layer to this whole thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's even more impressive. Okay, so let's rewind all the way back. This all started with a custody ruling back in 2011. Lily Coley got legal custody of Rymir Satterthwaite, and a year later, she files for child and college support. I mean, on the surface, it sounds pretty straightforward, right?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But this is where things get a little tricky. So the case initially gets dismissed because of jurisdiction. Basically, the court's saying, we don't really have the authority to rule on this.
Well, wait a minute. Didn't Coley provide evidence that Sean Carter owned property in New Jersey?
Right.
Wouldn't that, like, automatically give New Jersey courts the right to hear the case?
Exactly. And that's one of the things about this case that's so interesting. She claims that the court basically ignored this evidence.
Wow.
She sees this as the first in a long line of roadblocks.
So she basically hit a wall right from the start.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so what happened next?
Well, she didn't give up, right? So later, she says she found evidence of Carter's property in New Jersey, even though the court had said no jurisdiction. It's almost like there was an attempt to keep this information hidden.
Ooh, that's getting a little sus,
Yeah, a little bit.
A little conspiracy theory-ish.
It definitely felt that way to her. So she filed these motions for reconsideration, even amended her complaints to include some serious allegations. I mean, she's talking fraud, civil conspiracy, even abuse of the judicial process by judges and court entities.
Well, I'm guessing it wasn't smooth sailing from there.
No, you guessed it. The court denies her motions over and over again.
Wow.
So she's feeling increasingly frustrated, like she's hitting a wall every time she turns around.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense, right? They say there's no jurisdiction, but then there's this evidence of property ownership.
What, like, what's going on?
Right.
This doesn't seem right at all. Like, what is she supposed to do?
Well, she doesn't back down, and this is where things get even wilder. In 2015, the court decides to seal the entire proceedings.
Whoa, hold on. They sealed everything. Why would they do that? It's like they're trying to, like, hide the whole thing?
Yeah, it raises some eyebrows for sure. All the records become inaccessible to the public. Nobody can talk about the case.
Wow, so, like, what was the reason?
It's hard to say, but the Daily News, they challenged this decision.
Okay.
And eventually the appellate court says, yeah, the trial court went too far, sealing all the records, that's too much.
Okay, so common sense wins out.
Well, here's the catch. Coley ends up getting sanctioned for breaking the sealed order.
Wait. She gets punished for breaking a rule that a higher court later says was wrong? That's like getting a speeding ticket on a road that doesn't exist.
It does seem pretty unfair, right? And this is just one of many sanctions she'll face over the years.
So, like, what were these sanctions? Were they even, like, justified?
Well, you've got multiple judges involved here. Judge Katz, Judge Schweitzer, Judge Polanski. They all get in on it, accusing her of violating gag orders. But get this. She says these gag orders never even existed.
So they're penalizing her for rules that weren't even real. Go on, this feels like they're trying to shut her up.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? And to add insult to injury, she keeps trying to appeal, but she hits roadblocks left and right. Her appeals get blocked, denied, mishandled. It's like she can't catch a break.
This is getting really unsettling. Like, what happens next?
Well, unfortunately, things take a turn for the worse. And we're not just talking about the legal stuff now. We're talking her financial well-being, too. In 2023, she finds out that someone put fraudulent linguals on her property.
Linguals? What does that even mean? And how can they be fraudulent?
So basically, these linguals stop her from selling her home. And the crazy part is, she says these lingings came from fake court orders.
Okay.
Orders she swears she never saw.
Oh, no.
If this is true, that's a big violation of her rights.
This is messed up. It sounds like someone was trying to, like, ruin her financially.
It really does, and it gets even worse. The lingies eventually get paid off by a title company, but guess where the money goes? Straight to the attorneys representing Sean Carter.
Wait, they took her money through fake lingans and gave it to the other side? This is crazy.
It's a new level of injustice, right? It really shows how much damage can be done when the system seems to be working against you.
This is unbelievable. So what does she do? I can't imagine the toll this must have taken on her family.
You're right, the human cost is huge. But she's not done fighting yet. The lawsuit she files, it has some shocking new accusations. And this time, it's not just about what happened to her.
Oh, this is getting good. What is it?
She's saying that there were attempts to silence not just her, but her son too, Rymir, even the media.
Whoa, they're alleging a cover-up? This is getting bigger and bigger.
They're claiming they were stopped from speaking out against the court system and its violations. Think about it. That raises some big First Amendment issues, right? Freedom of speech.
So it's like a conspiracy to silence anyone who even questions the system.
Exactly. And they're not stopping there. They're saying there's a bigger conspiracy going on involving more people than just those named in the lawsuit. And this conspiracy, they say, is aimed at controlling the narrative around this whole case, maybe involving powerful people who want to keep things quiet.
Okay, we are in a full-on legal thriller now.
I know, right?
This is incredible.
So let's get down to the brass tacks, the actual lawsuit. How do they structure their argument with all these claims? They break it down into 7 different counts. Each count addresses a specific violation, giving us a framework for understanding their claims.
Okay, so let's go through it. Count I, the First Amendment violation. What's the gist of that one?
In count I, they're arguing that actions like sealing the records, issuing sanctions without any real basis, it was all done to suppress their First Amendment rights, specifically their right to free speech. They're saying the court tried to muzzle them to prevent them from talking about their case.
Which, connects back to those cover-up allegations.
Right.
It's a bold claim, but
Yeah.
given everything we've heard, it doesn't sound that far-fetched.
I agree.
All right, so what about count 2?
Count 2 focuses on the 14th Amendment, pretty big one. It guarantees things like equal protection and due process. They're saying their 14th Amendment rights were violated through all this fraudulent activity and obstruction that blocked their access to legal remedies. And this includes those fraudulent property liens, which directly affected Coley's property rights.
So they're not just saying their free speech was violated, but their right to a fair process, too.
Exactly.
That's huge. If this is true, it's a really bad look for the judicial system.
Absolutely. And this leads us to count 3, which is about color of state law violation.
Color of state law, what does that mean?
It means they're accusing the defendants of abusing their power as state actors.
Right.
Like using their positions as judges and court officials to take away their constitutional rights.
So it's not just about individual actions, it's about the system itself being used against them.
Right, exactly.
It's starting to feel like a real David and Goliath situation.
And it's not over yet. We get to count 4, which gets a little more complex. They're alleging a violation of 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, a federal law that lets people sue state officials for violating their civil rights.
So they're using federal law to strengthen their claims about violations at the state level. They're coming at this from every angle.
They are, and Count V takes it even further. They're alleging a violation of 42 U.S.C. Section 1985, which is about conspiracies to interfere with civil rights.
Wait, they're saying there was a whole conspiracy to violate their rights? This is serious.
It is. They're claiming there was a coordinated effort to obstruct justice, possibly even driven by racial discrimination. This count brings in the potential for more people being involved, making it even more complicated.
My head's spinning. This is a lot to unpack. Where do we go from here?
Well, next time we'll dive into the rest of the lawsuit and all the legal twists and turns that come with it.
This is going to be fascinating. Make sure you stick with us as we continue to unravel this web of allegations and see what the consequences might be of this crazy legal battle.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure. Okay, so we were talking about those 7 counts in the lawsuit, and we left off on a bit of a cliffhanger with Count V and that alleged conspiracy.
Right, yeah. So what about the next one, Count 6? What's that all about?
Count 6, that's where they bring in something called Bivens-type actions.
Bivens-type actions. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, so break that down for me.
Sure. Basically, it's a way to hold individual government officials responsible if they violate someone's constitutional rights.
Ah, so it's not just going after the system as a whole, but actually pointing fingers at specific people they believe are responsible.
Exactly. They're saying, hey, we see the problems with the system, but these individuals also need to be held accountable for their actions.
Makes sense. So they're seeking damages from those who they believe caused them harm.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, got it. So then what's Count Seth about?
Count 7, that gets into the more personal impact of all this. They're claiming something called negligent infliction of emotional distress.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this whole thing must have been incredibly stressful for them.
Absolutely. They're saying the defendant's actions caused them serious emotional suffering, including the loss of Wanda, and the invasion of Rymir's privacy. It's heartbreaking. It's a reminder that this isn't just some abstract legal case. There are real people at the heart of it who have suffered real consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we come to the last one, Count 8. That's where they're asking for what's called a declaratory judgment.
A declaratory judgment. What's that?
It's basically asking the court to officially declare that what the defendants did was wrong, that it was unlawful, and they're also asking the court to unseal all those records so everything can be out in the open.
So it's not just about money, it's about transparency and acknowledging the wrongdoing.
Right, they want the truth to come out.
It shows how determined they are to see justice done. It's incredible, really, especially considering how long they've been fighting.
It really is. This whole case with all the allegations of misconduct and those possible constitutional violations, it really underscores how important it is to have a fair and impartial judicial system. A system that people can trust.
Yeah, a system that's transparent and accountable.
This whole situation raises so many questions. I mean, what happens if these allegations are true? What does that mean for public trust in the courts? Could this erode faith in the system? The very system that's supposed to uphold justice.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It makes you think about the power dynamics involved and how some people might try to protect their interests, even if it means undermining the system itself.
That's a bit unsettling when you think about it.
It is. It really is.
It makes me think about our listener and, what they're taking away from all of this. What would you say to someone who's hearing this story for the first time? What's the one thing you want them to remember?
That's a good question. I think the core of this case is about holding people in power accountable. It's a reminder that nobody is above the law, not even judges or court officials. And it shows how important our fundamental rights are, like free speech and due process. We need to protect those rights and be willing to fight for them.
That's a powerful message, especially when you feel like you're up against a system that seems designed to shut you down.
Yeah. But this case shows us that individuals can make a difference, even when facing a giant institution like the legal system. You just have to be determined and believe in justice.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that we're just scratching the surface here. We focused on the legal arguments and the key players. But there's so much more to this story, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like the human element, the emotional toll, what's happening behind the scenes. It's all part of a much bigger picture.
Yeah, it's like peeking behind the curtain and seeing how power and justice intersect, how individual stories can get lost in the system, and how difficult it can be to uncover the truth.
It's a bit like we've opened a Pandora's box.
In a way, yeah. But we've given our listeners the tools to navigate it, to figure out what's real and what's not, and to reach their own conclusions.
This is a case that requires you to think critically, to question everything, and to be committed to seeking the truth. We've given our listeners a lot to chew on, that's for sure. And I'm sure they'll have more questions as this case moves forward. So what would you say to them as they follow this story? What should they keep in mind?
Stay informed, engage in discussions, and remember that justice is not a passive thing. It requires action, speaking out against injustice, and believing that change is possible.
Well said.
Yeah.
What started as a custody battle has turned into something much bigger, something that impacts our legal system and our values as a society.
It really makes you think about how we uphold justice and what happens when that system is threatened.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. I'm so glad we got to explore this case together.
Me too.
We'll be back soon with another captivating case, but for now, keep those minds sharp and stay curious. It's amazing to think that Coley has been fighting this for so long. I mean, over a decade. Makes you wonder where she gets her strengths from.
It's inspiring, isn't it? Like, she just refuses to give up. She keeps hitting these roadblocks, but she keeps pushing forward.
Yeah, she does.